Hello everybody, Maven here, and we're getting 3 brand new exotic armor pieces in the Edge of Fate, and today I wanted to go over them and explain why they will not be meta. I know this is kind of a negative-centric video, which is a rarity on my channel. I'm usually known to be the Destiny YouTuber that always stays positive about everything and never has anything bad to say about the game, but this is one of those rare instances where I just have to voice my opinion and my concerns about these exotics and maybe warn you guys to reconsider and save time if you were previously planning on chasing after them. Plus, this could be some good positive feedback for Bungie so they can maybe make some changes to these exotics in the future. So anyways, let's break them down and why they won't be meta. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. So as a preface to this video, I will be borrowing some clips of these exotics from other YouTubers, but I'll be sure to give credit where it is due, and I'll also link all their videos referenced down below in the description so you can go and check out the originals if you please. So we're going to kick things off with the new Warlock exotic, the Eunoia, or perhaps the Eunoia. I'm unsure how to pronounce it. This exotic enhances the range of your Hellion aspect and also causes them to break apart into solar shrapnel if they travel far, which I would assume is very reminiscent of the new artifact mod we're getting called Radiant Shrapnel, where sustained damage against scorched targets while Radiant creates solar shrapnel. I'm guessing it's kind of the same thing. Now, Hellion is a very strong ability, don't get me wrong, and 9 times out of 10, when I play Solar or Prismatic Warlock, I have Hellion equipped. It's an awesome ability, but I think that it's good as it is. I don't think it needs much help to be better. I think this new exotic is just overkill. Sure, it can make Hellion just a little bit stronger, but that's literally all it does. But I'd rather settle for a regular Hellion while also being able to have like infinite grenades from things like Starfire Protocol or Sunbracers, which are going to be extremely juicy next season due to the new Shield Crush artifact mod that juices up the regenerate and damage of grenades as long as you're Radiant. Those builds are going to be disgustingly good, and I'd rather have the ability to chain Wells of Radiance from something like the Phoenix Protocol, which helps a ton in endgame content. And I'd rather have the ability to get free Ick-Dash reloads with Rain of Fire, which helps a lot with DPS rotations or farming through fast content with Gallarhorn. Or I'd rather have Cenotaph Mask if I was playing support so I can create a bunch of heavy ammo for my teammates. And on the topic of support, you can also run the Speaker site to create healing turrets so your fire team can survive, which is also my #1 Warlock build I suggested in my top 3 Solar builds video I just did last week. You got all these awesome Solar Warlock builds with amazing benefits which can do things the Eunoia wishes it can do, while at the same time being able to run Hellion already. Why in the world would I want to give up all those amazing build benefits just to have a slightly stronger Hellion, which I can already have? There's no point. There's literally no point. Please, if somebody has an argument for this thing, let me know in the comments why you would choose this exotic over any of those others. I really think it needs extra added benefits, like increasing the duration of Hellion as well as the travel speed of the projectiles. And it would be incredibly awesome if this exotic allowed you to have 2 Hellions up at a time. So if you utilize things like Ember of Singeing and Strategist on your weapons to get your class ability back quickly, you can have 2 Solar buddies up at the same time and start stacking insane Hellion DPS. Now that's the power fantasy I want to see out of this exotic. As it is right now, though, I can maybe see it being kind of useful in PvP, although you would have to give up things like Ophidian Aspect or Transversive Steps, which I don't know if I would want to do that. It depends on how good this Solar Shrapnel is. But for PvE, if this juiced up Hellion did like mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, orgasmic levels of damage and ignition chaining with Ember of Char and Ashes, then I could see it being somewhat useful. And only time will tell, but I have a feeling that it won't be that much stronger than just a normal Hellion. Thank you. Next up, we're moving on to the new Titan exotic, the Menas Panoplia, or the Salem Piano Pal if you unscramble it. This exotic says collecting a Fire Sprite or Rapid Final Blows make you a Forge Master. While you are a Forge Master, you have the ability to recall your throwing hammer just like Thor does in the movies. but recalling your hammer at a certain point in its animation will be considered a perfect recall, so you have to time it correctly, and when you do, you get certain benefits such as creating an explosion of forged slag and extending the duration of Forge Master either by doing the perfect recall or collecting fire sprites. Now, I was watching some gameplay of this exotic from other YouTubers, and this quote-unquote explosion of forge slag does not really seem that significant. It seems more or less about the equivalent of a sunspot. It's nice and all, but here's the thing. That slag explosion is meant to buff your hammer, but if I wanted to buff my hammer, why wouldn't I just use this Synthoceps to make my hammer do 165% increased damage while also buffing my super by 50% damage? Something tells me that the power of this new exotic will not even come close to surpassing the power of the Synthoceps. And if your argument is, oh, this new exotic's meant for ad clear, well, if that's the case, the Severance Enclosure is just gonna be better. You create those big chaining explosions on bonk final blows, and it's just incredible. Sure, the Menas Panoplia has the ability to recall your throwing hammer, and the others don't. And this may be a hot take, but I don't think that ability will be all that useful 90% of the time, because 90% of the time when you bonk stuff, it's from point blank range and you're instantly picking up your hammer anyway. The only time the recall ability will be useful is when you throw your hammer from a long distance, which you don't often do anyway. Although it could come in handy if you miss your hammer throw, but half the time you miss your hammer, you yeet it off a cliff and lose it. And I'm sure my fellow Titan mains in the comments can relate to that one. Now here's my idea of one tiny little fix Bungie could do to instantly make this exotic useful, and that's give the baby hammer better tracking. If this exotic made your hammer heat seek to targets, it would be 10 times more useful and actually a pretty awesome exotic. As it is, trying to bonk something from 20 plus meters away is very hard to do. If the enemy strafes by 1 inch, it just whiffs. And since this exotic is meant to be used from 20 plus meters away, it would be incredibly useful if the hammer had some tracking so you don't whiff it half the time. With tracking, I could see this exotic being extremely fun. Just being able to toss a hammer at stuff from 40 meters away and then recalling it, it could be an amazing tool to preserve ammo and have a very consistent and potent gameplay loop, especially with Roaring Flames. But right now, what I'm imagining it will do is you'll try to hit something from 30 meters, you'll miss, recall your hammer, and it will miss again on hitting the target on the recall. I guarantee you that will happen all the dang time. Same argument as the Warlock, you could run any other Solar Titan exotic and settle for the normal baby hammer, and it will suffice while giving you other benefits. Like you can have things like the Loreley Splendor Helm, Precious Scars, or Strongholds to have incredible survival, or have Synthos or Severance Enclosure to have an arguably stronger baby hammer gameplay loop than the Menas Panoplia. I just do not see a reason to favor this thing. And finally, moving on to the new Hunter exotic, the Moirai. It allows your threaded spike melee to essentially be a scorpion spear for Mortal Kombat. So it can go and retrieve a tangle that you throw it at and bring it back to you. Additionally, if you did not hit a tangle and you grab your spike on the comeback like you usually do, it will refund more melee energy than normal. And I mained Strand Hunter for over a year when Lightfall came out, and I can tell you from experience that 90% of the time I didn't catch my spike on the comeback whenever I threw it. Maybe that's just me, but I felt like it just slowed down my gameplay loop and was never really worth doing. So personally, I don't feel that last ability will be too useful, but the first ability is the useful part, being able to throw your spike and retrieve your tangles. But then again, that kind of eliminates your capability of throwing your spike at enemies because now you're kind of saving them to throw at your tangles. But the whole point of this is to pair it with Whirling Maelstrom, aka the Beyblade. So you throw your spike at a tangle, create a Beyblade, and suddenly you have another tangle in your hands, and you can have 2 Beyblades on the battlefield every time guaranteed. And while that's all going on, the internal cooldown for tangle creation is ticking, so you can potentially have 3 or even 4 Beyblades on the battlefield at once, and that's actually an awesome power fantasy. So out of all 3 of the new Edge of Fate exotics, this one seems like it has the most potential. I don't have much bad to say about it other than it's completely contrary to the way I typically like to play Strand Hunter. I usually go with a Spider-Man playstyle, flying around with my double grapple charges from Widow Silk and flipping on enemies with Ensnaring Slam. That's how I've always played Hunter because I'm a very movement-oriented player, but with this new Moirai exotic, you're obviously going to want Whirling Maelstrom, that's like a given, Ribbon, and then you're also going to want Threaded Spectre so you can dodge and create strand clones. Because of the point of this exotic is to spam Threaded Needles at your Beyblades, you're probably going to use Gambler's Dodge, in which case Threaded Spectre will synergize with that nicely. And Threaded Spectre did just get a nice little buff recently. So these are two Strand Hunter aspects that I don't really ever use. I usually use the two others. So that's not a problem in general, it's just a me problem, but in reality, this actually seems like a pretty solid setup and gameplay loop, not gonna lie. Honestly, no complaints. I think this exotic will be fun. I don't think it will be meta, but from a casual standpoint, it seems worth using in some activities. I just like to imagine a raid group of 6 Strand Hunters tossing 12 Beyblades at a boss. Cree, if you're watching this video, make that happen, please. So at least this video wasn't totally negative. I at least had something positive to say about one of these exotics. But anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Which new exotic are you the most excited for? Let me know in the comments. And also let me know if I'm totally wrong about these things. I'm sure somebody will have something to say. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button as it helps out a ton. And consider subscribing if you are new. Would love to have you here for more Edge of Fate content on the way. And I hope you have a nice day.